What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Burndown YouTube channel. You and I are going to go on a quick romp with this thing to double check, triple check, see if everything is functioning and doing what it should. And if that goes well, or hell, even if it doesn't go well, you and I are going to sit and have a quick conversation, because it's easier to make a little talking head video and explain why it's not so easy to build a transmission at home, or let alone when you're new to it. And I want to go over some of the pitfalls that I had. And I have some tremendous help and people in my corner that have been phenomenal. And I know for a fact, if I didn't have that, there's no way this thing would even be functioning. So let's go see if it functions properly, take a little ride. Hopefully it lifts our spirits up and everything looks good. And then we'll come back and discuss. And then if not, we're really going to have a discussion. And who knows, maybe we'll cry on camera together and it'll be gravy. Let's roll. Before we go on our little adventure, to fill those of you in that have not been following along, I just rebuilt a 4L80E that is in the Malibu. We have like 20 days till Rocky Mountain Race Week, which is an endurance drag race. We're gonna be driving this thing over 1,000 miles. We're gonna be making passes all week. And the goal is to keep the same transmission in the car all week and to load it up with a running car. Because I've gone twice and I've come home with a different transmission, or at least, yeah, it's 2 different transmissions both times that we went. So this is my 3rd rodeo. First performance 4L80E build, and let's see if she shifts and does all the things. So I've already been through 1st through 3rd, but we're looking for 4th, and we're looking for lockup. So we're gonna jump on the freeway. We're gonna go fast enough to get into lockup, and I've got my little screen set up with line temp, gear, range position, and then TCC, so I can just see it at a glance. No spirited driving, nothing crazy. We got to make sure the fluid level is great. And my fuel's a little low, so we're going to see how well I calibrated my fuel gauge. Let's ride. All right, we are off. 2nd gear. Rolling. So that's as far as we've been, because I haven't driven this at speed yet. So let me get to a spot. We can get it in 4th, cruise that a little bit. Maybe we'll get on and off the freeway and see if it'll lock up. But let me drive, and I'll bring you back when we're hopefully getting into 4th. Oh yeah! 4th gear. Boom, boom, boom. All right, jump on the freeway. There's something to look like an accident or something that way. So we'll head this way. There's a freeway on ramp. We'll get on, we'll get off. We're just looking for TCC, looking at trans temp a little bit. I think she's good. Let's go home and discuss the trials and tribulations of trying to build this thing. Bam! It does all the things. I feel great about it. We're gonna rip the motor out. But let's go talk about this thing and what a struggle it was and why. All right, let's discuss Amateur Transmission Building 101 by yours truly. So to preface this, I have put together a handful of Power Glide transmissions, and I made the switch from a Power Glide to the 4L80E Monster because it has overdrive, but mainly it has a lockup torque converter. So a lot of people think that the overdrive is where it's at, and they go, hey, just get your Power Glide in a gear vendor or a TH400 in a gear vendor. Well, the lockup clutch in the torque converter allows you to run a little bit looser converter around on the street, because you have that option to lock her on up when you're just cruising around and towing and things, especially if you're in hills or whatever you're doing, because anybody that has run a loose converter knows it will heat the transmission up when you're doing the around town and just kind of cruising stuff. You can compensate with a big transmission cooler, a good set of fans. I do understand that, but ultimately you're not going to take the heat out of it like you can when you lock the converter up. So I jumped into the 4L80E when I decided to go full-on drag and drive. So I don't typically just drag race the car, so to speak. It is being purpose-built, and the purpose use case of it is drag and drive. So I chose the 4L80E. I have my friend Ryan Jans. That dude knows this stuff in and out. He will tell you all about stuff it will go over your head at a certain point. You'll be like, I don't know. So he knows the thing like the back of his hand, all the passages, all the stuff, everything about the 480E. He is phenomenal. However, he is on the other side of the country. I am in Southern California. He happens to be in Tampa Bay, Florida, which is a little ways away. So there's the Bluetooth help that I get and the phone conversations that we have. But he helped me do some work on the Twinnebago. I had some issues with that. I was able to kind of get through it. And then that gave me a false sense of confidence. I'll be completely honest with you, because he helped me do a few things. I built a stack, we put it in. I've been driving the Twinnebago around, which is my twin turbo LS Winnebago that weighs 1,000,000 pounds. And I figured, hey, that wasn't so bad. Maybe we can do one for the race car. Well, that's where I'm gonna stop you guys and draw the line and let you know, look, in my opinion, having done this and thinking right now, at least at this point, that I have a successful build in the car, it was not successful when I built it. There was like 4 different issues that we had. Majority of it was kind of self-inflicted. But all in all, I wouldn't have been able to get through those things. It would have taken me a lot longer. I wouldn't have had help to pull the transmission in and out. And if I was a normal guy and I was trying to go on forums and just ask the internet for help, and I didn't have people that I trust, that I know their stuff, so when they tell me stuff, they're not really guessing. You know, these are guys that know their stuff. My buddy Jason at War Performance, he's done several of these. He's getting much better at it. Again, it's amateur hour, but he's less blind than I am if it was the blind leading the blind, so he is better. He can install things. He doesn't have to just stare at the ATSG manual or watch the video on how to do stuff. But he is by no means a professional. But we've chosen to run with the 480E, and the goal is to get proficient enough at it that we don't have to blow people's phones up and things, and can kind of troubleshoot and do stuff ourselves. So this weekend, I spent a ton of time building this transmission. The mods included, so here's the other thing too that I will get at for the amateur person. Now you're probably thinking, oh, Dan, you're discouraging me. Well, here's a little bit of hopium for you guys that would like to build a 480E, because I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying the performance-oriented version of one is much more difficult. And I did have that discussion with Ryan after I did the motorhome, because I feel like he could tell that I was enthusiastic, and I'm like, oh, I got this, I can do it. Well, we did, but not without struggle. So, say you do want to jump into the 480E, you want to do some drag and drive, you like the idea of the lockup clutch, you like the strength and durability of the transmission, and you're like, the 480E is for me, that's the route I would like to go. Here's my advice, if you've never done it before, depending on your power goals and level and all that stuff, but this is probably going to fit where a guy, gal like you would end up. If you have a good working 480E, as I did in my motorhome, all the parts that were in there were good, they were functioning good. I, like a knucklehead, burned it up trying to do burnouts, but I digress. So it was no working good before I was trying to put the wood to it and I burned the clutches out in the thing, right? She was tired, but it all functioned. So if you have a good, known, functioning 480E that maybe is tired, that's going to be your best bet to start and complete with some form of success your first 480E build. The reason being is if your hard parts are good, they're not scored, everything was working, it was decent, and you're just changing all the soft goods and seals, the upgrade you can make to that, which is phenomenal, is when you pull it all apart, you do the dual feed mod. The dual feed mod is not very involved, it's pretty straightforward. You kind of look at it and you're like, this is a mod, I'm doing stuff. Yeah, that's it. There's a couple things you do. You drill a hole, you plug a hole, you leave some sealing rings off, and Bob's your uncle, you're pretty much dual fed. You can look for the videos and find it, but that's pretty much all you do. So that helps with clamping force, right? The other thing you can do to help yourself is you put it in third gear when you want to party. If you leave it in overdrive or you're climbing hills, you're really stressing it in overdrive, that makes things go boom. Same thing, obviously, when you're racing. But ultimately, that is the easiest and probably, I would say, the highest percentage of success you're going to have is if you get a good, known working 480E that worked. Maybe you've seen it work, maybe you had it in something, like you know this thing works. You dual feed it, you put it back together, Bob's your uncle, your foot braking, throw a converter at it, you're awesome. With that being said, that is more of a budget oriented deal. That's essentially what I had in the car before we got to the step we're at now. I had a dual fed, super tired 480E that Jason built years ago. It had made thousands of miles worth of trips. I don't even know how many passes it made. We threw it in my car as a backup. I licensed with it. We ran 960, I think was the fastest quarter mile, and I ran like 620 something or 30 something off a foot brake at Irwindale. It was like a 1.5 something 60 foot. So I had a decent budget converter in there, and then just that. That was it. Nothing crazy, no trans brake, none of that stuff, right? So for most people, if you had a car that you could foot brake and run 960s, 970s all day and get in it, was reliable, you could drive it 1,000 miles. I mean, the internet is wonderful. It's wonderful that people can go sevens and build pro mods and they have unlimited budgets. But for you and I, normal people, that is not only awesome, that's a hell of a car. A 960 car, 970, that's basically what I have, at least in the trim it's in. It should go faster, but everything should be faster in theory. But right now, as she sits, I got a 960 car all day. I can go to Irwindale, I can go fast enough that I need a license in the car. To me, that is impressive. It's a driven car. It was wonderful. That's awesome. Well, the horsepower range, everything's gonna work together well. I made 7 at the tire, we were a little over the converter, but let's just say from 700, depending on weight down. So I'm gonna call it 600 wheel, roughly, area. So if you have whatever car, roughly 600 wheel horsepower range, you dual feed the transmission, you make some steam, life is gravy, it's good. You're probably gonna be successful, you're gonna be happy. Well, I know the video's getting long, but this is where the train comes off the tracks. And this is what I learned, and this is for amateur hour experience over here. I don't have the experience to know if stuff is correct or not. You can follow videos and do all the things you want, but here's one of the things that bit me is I pulled a core out of my backyard that I had sitting for a while, didn't know anything about it, pulled it apart, and cleaned everything up. And when I started going through it, I had enough attention to detail to figure out. So the first thing was the overdrive sprag had failed. So somebody put it in 4th gear, they partied, they towed too hard, whatever they did, it failed, probably lost pressure, they pulled the transmission out. Well, when that failed, it also ate the inner diameter bore of the direct drum. It scored it because stuff got into it, who knows what went through it. So the upper half of the transmission was basically no good, right? So I got some parts from Jason. Well, Jason has parts on the shelf and he takes things apart and he has used 480 stuff because they build them. And he's like, oh, I got you, and I have another part supplier out here. So I went with my boys from war. He sent me some stuff, and those parts in different year transmissions are different. Same thing with the pumps, same thing with a lot of stuff. If you don't have a complete transmission that was all stacked up and measured and everything from the factory, and it was a good known working transmission, your stack is wrong if you swap parts out from one transmission to another. Even though it's a 480E part, it wasn't for that specific known good working transmission. So now you're changing the stack height, you're changing clearances, tolerances, all of that stuff. And we're talking thousandths of an inch are make or break. Here's the other thing that's fun. It is a pressure hydraulic system. So if you do not have pressure, the hydraulic system portion of it doesn't work. And then typically you just burn stuff up and you ate your clutches and put a bunch of junk through your transmission. There goes your build. You're pulling it apart. You're gonna start over and figure out where the leak or where the problem was if you were a complete knucklehead, right? So you have to get everything right. There's no, it's good enough, and you might get it good enough, but it's gonna rear its ugly head and show it because something will probably wear out premature or the thing will just break. And I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It's amateur hour over here, but that's what I've learned with these. And it's a tall order and a lot of work, especially if you're rolling around in your driveway, to just slam one of these things in and out, right? So you want to rollerize it. You want to do an input shaft. You want to do a trans brake. You want to do some heavy duty clutches. You want to do some different springs. And then on top of that, you want to throw in some parts out of a couple different transmissions, because that's basically what I ended up doing. Now I'm responsible to measure all those things out and basically blueprint it. And I'm the guy going, this is good enough. Well, my QC didn't work. I didn't measure the reverse band piston. There's a reverse servo, and it has a pin on it, and it pushes on the band. And it basically has to stop this drum with hydraulic pressure. Well, I custom did that pin to get it closer so my trans brake works better, right? Well, I ended up making it too short, so reverse didn't work at all. That was awesome. I did that. And it was a simple mistake because my measurement was actually good. And I'm going to say that it was good because I checked it multiple times. However, what was not good is I didn't seat the band correctly in the case. And that is an amateur issue. And looking back now, I know it was incorrect, so I won't make that mistake moving forward. But I sat here and made that mistake 10 times in a row, measuring that pin, thinking that I was killing the game with my 98 thousandths measurement. And lo and behold, we were way off, and I had to get a whole nother pin. That's how bad it was, because, you know, life happens. And then on the other one, the Sprag, I could put a video up, but the Sprag wasn't spragging, it would freewheel. And what happens there is when you put it in drive, if it does, the Sprag doesn't stop it and grab, it won't put it into first gear. So we had pressure, we'd put it into drive, which is basically fourth, in your fourth range position, and it would make pressure, but nothing would happen. And it was like, what? How does that happen? Like, you're making pressure, but it doesn't move? Well, once again, I used 2 different portions because they will go together and they engage the clutches, but it'll freewheel both ways. I never checked to see if the Sprag was spragging, which means it would only go one way and it would lock in the other direction. And I believe there's 3 different Sprags, 2 different Sprags in the transmission. So you got to make sure your Sprags are spragging and those are in there correctly. And again, that was all me during assembly. So there's a multitude of things you can cut seals when you're installing stuff. Some things you need specialty tools to put pistons in and out to compress springs. I've got heavy duty release springs, and I believe it's a direct drum. I almost thought I was going to have to get my wife out here to so I could jump on the thing and she would hold it for me, because I'm like 150 pounds soaking wet and I couldn't even compress them. So I couldn't imagine if I didn't have the legitimate tool that's fairly expensive to do that. So I'm not trying to discourage all you guys. I'm just letting you know that when you pay somebody to do a transmission, and especially you get into aftermarket stuff, there's a lot of measuring and a lot of details that go on. And the only way that transmission is going to work properly if it's 100% correct. And that's what's hard about it. There's no in between. The margin for error is so slim that unless you are full-on idiot like I am, and you will just continue to beat your head against the wall because you really want to learn and you want to try to race. I mean, it's going to be poor choice of words, but race on a budget. That's what I'm calling it these days, but the car's well past a normal person's budget, I'll be honest with you at this point. Yeah, your best success is going to be, like I said, knowing good working parts. You know, if you're just foot braking the car, making life easy on yourself and doing that. There's other things you can do, sloppy spool mods, you can do some fun stuff, trans brake style stuff, but once you start getting up into the upper levels of transmission building, and you want to change parts out because you want to make some power and do all the things, and you want to do it, it just gets more complex as you go. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm saying a lot of you guys are going to have high expectations like I did, even with a little bit of experience under your belt. And don't be surprised if you have to double, triple check it, maybe do it a couple times before you actually get it right. Good news is, though, if you beat your head against the wall long enough, like even if this one decides to kill itself and yeet itself, we're going to figure out what I did wrong, and I'm going to repair it to the point to where I can do my own stuff and be self-sufficient and not blow my friends' phones up and panic and feel like I want to vomit after putting it in 3 times in a row and not sleeping most of the weekend. So that's my long-winded video. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you build transmissions, you do those types of things, you've done one, maybe you have some experience, let me know. What's your guys' experience? Did you build one and it was one and done? Maybe you changed a bunch of stuff out and trans braked it and input shaft and rollerized it and you're just awesome. I know A21 Bravo on here was it Blaster Builds. You can comment, dude. I've seen you succeed, but I've also seen you show where things didn't go correctly, so I know you've been put through the ringer and it seems like you're getting it now. Your car's haul ass, and I'm hoping to get there too, but it's not without effort. I don't think it's one of those things you effortlessly come in like an LS motor, you Lego assemble it with an impact and you're off and racing. Transmissions do not work like that, at least not from what I've found. So let me know your experience. Thank you guys for sticking around, watching. Thank you to everybody that helped me with my transmission once again and fielding all the questions. And hopefully I don't have to bug you and we finish the race with the same transmission that's in the car now. That would be a win. I want to go 9s in the 9s, and I want that transmission to stay in one piece, as well as the motor and the rest of the car too. But transmission has been my Achilles heel, and if I feel like I can get over that hump, I'm just gonna be a happy critter. I don't even care, to tell you the truth, how fast we're going at this point. I just want less headache, because then the fun factor goes way up. Till next time, I'm out.